Hey everybody, my name is Joe Rich, and I'm here to talk to you about what is surely the greatest topic in the entire world, baseball. That's right, coming to you live from New York City. Anyway, just to give a general overview about what's going on in baseball right now in New York, it's actually pretty interesting. Last year's, neither team made the playoffs. It's the first time that neither team in New York City had made the playoffs since 2008. Before that, it had been well back into the early 90s since neither team had made the playoffs. 1993, I believe, was the season. That, of course, being the year that the Yankees had gotten Wade Boggs and Paul O'Neill and Jim Abbott and a few other good players. It was also the year of the famous, worst team money could buy Mets with Eddie Murray and Brett Saberhagen, Bobby Bonilla, and other players who really didn't accomplish much for them. But it was sort of an embarrassment, New Yorkers having gotten, rather accustomed to their teams being good, seeing, both teams not in the playoffs. Something just had not happened in a very long time. Both teams just have a lot of very deep structural problems right now. The Yankees, of course, the big problem is they've got a lot of players tied up in long-term contracts whose productivity is going down. CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, and Derek Jeter, and they've got the ongoing mess with A-Rod right now, which is just turning into a disaster. And it might be a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for them, to the extent that he won't be playing next year, and since he's not playing next year, that frees up a little bit of money. But basically, the whole Yankees infield right now is just a big disaster. They got holes at first. Second, they're bringing in Brian Roberts, who was pretty good a couple years ago. He's leveled off a little bit. Third as a whole, Derek Jeter at short. No one really knows when he's coming back, so that's going to be a big problem. And of course, across town over in Queens, where I am right now, the New York Mets. Well, the Mets are, they're a horse of a different color right now. They've not had a winning season since 2008. They've had some fairly strong individual performances between then. R.A. Dickey winning the Cy Young, Jose Reyes winning the batting title, the emergence of Matt Harvey and Zach Wheeler, some other good, strong players. But the Mets just all around are have just not been very good the last few seasons. Actually, their pitching, their starting rotation has actually been decent. Big problem the Mets have had recently has been their closing. Well, Bobby Parnell is decent. I think he had 22 saves last year. They have very little setup right now, setup relief, mid relief, that kind of thing. And also their batting average has just been atrocious. They really just don't have that money bat in the lineup that can really help them. David Wright is pretty good. Murph is pretty good. Daniel Murphy, their second baseman. Other than that, they really don't have a big impact hitter. I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're bringing in Curtis Granderson from the Yankees. Definitely, he's going to make a difference in the outfield for them. Or if you're a Mets fan, as you can tell I am, you should hope they will. I really don't see either team contending in their respective divisions next year. But here before too long, I'm going to give a rundown of my opinion of every division, as well as some ongoing commentary. But from a New York perspective, that's what's going on. I think maybe if I had to make a call about who's going to have the better record next year, I don't know, coin toss, maybe a slight edge to the Mets for next season. I do predict the Mets are going to break 500 next year with the addition of, but this is going to depend upon a strong season from Granderson. Definitely, I think that can happen, as well as a good contribution from some of their pitching. With of course Matt Harvey being out, that's going to be a problem. But Bartolo Colon also had a very good season last year for Oakland. If he is even remotely at the same level this year as he was last year, I think the Mets are going to be somewhat better. Yankees rotation is also a big question right now. There's just a lot of holes there. But if you want to go down the line, let's look at all the players the Yankees have lost in the last couple seasons. Jeter, I think, only played a dozen or so games last year, was not productive after having had a very strong 2012 campaign. You never want to count out Derek Jeter. He's definitely a strong player. He could come back, but again, at his age and his history of injuries, especially last year, we'll see. A-Rod is out. Pettit is gone, of course. I think this is his third retirement, so that's going to take away some victories from them. And of course, they're losing Mariano Rivera. So these are, and Curtis Granderson is gone. So now they're bringing in Carlos Beltran, and they're bringing in the guy from Japan. whose name eludes me right now, but they've lost an awful lot of players in the last season, and their manager is really going to have to scramble to make up some of those holes. It's just hard to see how a team can lose that many good players, over one season and be able to be particularly competitive the next year, unless you're just bringing in a roster of superstars the next year. I like their catcher Brian McCann. Definitely Atlanta's gonna feel that loss. I'm not sure if I would have given him the contract they gave him, but that's just how the Yankees play. And Carlos Beltran has had a nice comeback recently, so that there's definitely a bright spot with him. But again, he's not young anymore. So that's sort of how I'm looking at the Yankees right now. And the sources I'm reading are looking at the Yankees maybe third in their division behind Boston and Tampa Bay. Toronto could be a surprise next year. They definitely have some good players. Baltimore's also, could be in the mix in the East. So definitely, in that strong division, I really think the Yankees are going to have to win the division if they expect to get into the playoffs at all. There could be a wild card coming out of the East. Who knows? But definitely the Yanks are going to have to have a very, very strong performance from a lot of players, and also have a few surprises in order to be competitive next year in the East. The road for the Mets is a little more is also, I'm not going to say more difficult, but it is also very difficult. As everyone knows, the National League East was a very strong division last year. Washington Nationals a little bit disappointing last year. Gio Gonzalez and Steven Strasburg, their win totals were down, although their numbers in terms of strikeout ratios and everything were about the same as they were the year before, when both of them were legitimate Cy Young contenders in 2012. Of course, everyone lost out to R.A. Dickey that year. So that team has been a little bit of a disappointment. I definitely think they're going to be good next year, though. And of course, the Atlanta Braves are just a steamroller right now. Freddie Freeman is turning into just a wonderful, wonderful first baseman. He's one of my favorite players. Had him on my fantasy team a few seasons ago, but dropped him unfortunately. The Mets have just got a very, very difficult time if they want to make any noise in the East right now, because they've got two very, very strong and competitive teams right in front of them. So anyway, that's my take right now on what's going on in New York baseball. It's going to be an interesting season. I think it's going to be a watch and wait season for both teams. I think the Mets are definitely, could maybe finish a few games ahead of the Yankees. I can't remember the last time the Mets won more games than the Yankees. I think it was actually the 2000 season. But this could be the year they do it. Mets fans like me, we've been waiting a long time. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my inaugural video about baseball. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about a lot of things. I'm going to talk about some of the Japanese players who are coming over this year and how I think they may impact. I'm also going to try to give a division by division rundown, league by league and division by division rundown of the game. Tell you where I think it's going. Maybe throw in a few surprises. And I hope you tune in again soon. Good